Yo, what's up, y'all? Thank y'all for tuning in to the Greg Owens podcast. This is episode 3. In this episode, I will talk about my creative journey from the time I was a baby up until this point. So sit back and relax and just keep pressing play. You don't want to skip nothing because I got a story to tell y'all. Play my theme music. Let's go. Once again, thank y'all for joining me on today's episode of the Greg Owens podcast. This is episode 3. And before I dive into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick little shout out, some plugins for you guys. So here we go. This episode is sponsored by my apparel, True Ohio Player. For all my True Ohio players out there that's all over the world, if you rep Ohio like I rep Ohio, make sure you go to TrueOhioPlayer.com. I got anywhere from crew necks, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and much, much more for men, women, and children. All you have to do is go to TrueOhioPlayer.com and purchase your True Ohio gear today and rep that OHIO. And don't forget to stream my latest single, True Ohio Player, featuring Zach Fresh and Chrissy T. And speaking of Chrissy T, make sure you download and stream her latest EP, Metamorphosis, on all streaming platforms. So in today's episode, I want to talk about my creative journey from an infant until what you see today. A lot of people ask me all the time, like, what don't you do? Like, you do a lot of things. Like, what made you decide to do all these things? And, like, where does this all start? And then there's some people that meet me at a certain point in life. They see me doing one thing, but then I display other things that I do, and they just be like, wow, I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you did that. And so, yeah, for the people that don't know me and for the people that do know me, I'm a multifaceted creator. That's what I like to call myself. I'm a multifaceted creator. Yes, I'm a musician, I'm a drummer, recording artist, rapper, singer, songwriter, composer, engineer, artist, actor, host. I'm probably missing a lot of things, but those are some of the things that I'm mainly known for. And to be honest with y'all, like, I've always had that mentality of not limiting myself. I believe that your value increases the more skills you have because you're able to tap into different areas and different fields and to be useful in many areas. You know, you can make a lot more money just by having more skills. And I think the great thing about just honing on one thing is that you can just be great at that thing and just, you know, you be the greatest at that. But when you start to develop different skills and have different skills that could be useful for other people and for yourself, you become more valuable. So that's always been my mentality, just to be as valuable as I can possibly be, you know. So we can start with the beginning, you know. Back when I was in my mama's womb, you know, I remember my mom telling me when I was in her womb, I remember I was kicking her womb, but I was in a rhythm. I was always on beat. So that lets you know that I was born to be a drummer and I was born to bring rhythm into the world. And so from there, I started playing the drums. I think I probably started diving into the drums around 2 or 3 years old. Just like, I was just banging on stuff. I was probably just banging on different things, you know. And then, you know, my parents saw it. Shout out to my mom and dad. First of all, shout out to both of my parents for not stifling me. And one thing about them, they made sure that I was a well-rounded individual. You know, I can go to anywhere. I can talk to anybody. You know, they got me involved in different things. They saw what I was doing, and they made sure that I honed in on that. So shout out to my parents for making sure that I grew up to be a well-rounded individual. And, you know, both of my parents are educators. Also, they also have an artistic side to them as well. That's how they met. They met at an art school. So they you know, they both sang in the praise teams and in the choirs when I was growing up. So my dad, especially in particular, he's also an amazing singer. He has some recordings as well. So I've got my artistic blood from both of my parents, I just took it to another level. Anyway, took lessons when I was 5 years old, drums. I took drum lessons when I was 5 years old by the name of Mr. Russell Myers. So he was my first drum teacher to ever teach me how to read rhythms, play different genres, such as funk and especially jazz. I learned how to play jazz at a very young age. Again, learning how to read rhythm and also practicing. I used to have to practice every day for 30 minutes. Every day for 30 minutes. I used to hate it, but without those practices, without that discipline, I wouldn't be the musician that I am today. So shout out to Mr. Russell Myers. I definitely grew up in church as well. I remember one time my mom had choir rehearsal and I was just there, and the drummer wasn't there at the time, and so the piano person at the time, the musical director at the time, she allowed me to hop on the drums because my mom told her that I was able to play drums. So I hop on the drums like really little, and I was able to play along with them. And ever since then, I've been playing drums in church. You know, shout out to I forgot her name, but shout out to her that allowed me to have the opportunity. And so whenever the drummer wasn't there, they always called me from children's church or wherever to hop on the drums, play along with the choirs and musicians. So I've been playing at church since I was about 5 years old. I'm 31 now, so I've been playing in church, drums at church since I was 5 years old. And I appreciate that church experience, because without that church experience and being able to hone in my craft at church, especially at a young age, I would not be the musician that I am today. So shout out to Flint Ridge Church. Also shout out to Faith Ministries Church for allowing me to hone in on my craft as a musician. You know, that's how I worship, you know, playing the drums. So my first actual public performance as a musician was when I was 5 years old. I played drums for my preschool graduation for We Pals at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. And this was my first public performance. So I remember they had bought this little drum set and they set it beside everybody that was graduating. I remember everybody was singing a couple of song selections. And I remember the song selections too. It was A Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong and I Am a Promise. And I played drums for both of those songs. So that was my actual first performance as a musician. So I just wanted to point that out there. So from there, I was always into different types of music. You know, my mom would play gospel, old school music. I wasn't allowed to listen to like a lot of this, like Biggie, Tupac, Jay-Z at the time, because they was cussing. So I had to listen to pretty much child appropriate music. So I grew up listening to Kirk Franklin. I was a big Will Smith fan. I just loved his music, and it was accessible to people my age, to everybody. So I listened to Will Smith. I listened to a lot of gospel music, old school soul. That's what was playing in the house. So what got me into wanting to make my own music was I was just watching, music videos and BET and MTV. I was just seeing the music videos. I was like, man, that's cool. That's so cool. I wanna do something like that. And so I had a dream of being a rapper. I remember, being in school, I used to draw a lot as well. I made this my nickname at the time was G Money. So I made a book. I made an autobiography book, and I drew the pictures and everything like that. So I pretty much wrote like I was going to be famous. So I knew back then that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make my own music. I wanted to be a famous drummer. I wanted to be I just wanted to be a famous musician, So this around elementary school. So fast forward, I'm still playing at church. I'm still honing in on that craft. I'm still banging on stuff. Just the music was in me. And so around 2004, that's when Kanye came out with the College Dropout. This is probably when I was in fifth grade. I was in fifth grade, right? So not only did he rap, but he also made his own beats. I was like, wow, you can make your own beats? I was just like going crazy of the idea of the concept of somebody not only rapping, but also making their own beats as well. So I was like, I want to make my own beats as well. So I remember in middle school, when I got to middle school in Reynoldsburg, I remember making my own discography. Like, I would draw my discography. Like, I drew the album covers. I had the track list on the back of the covers. Like, I had like a binder with my discography on it. That's how much like I wanted to do this thing for real. So this was all through middle school. And so when I was around 12 or 13, I was in a neighborhood. Shout out to McNaughton Woods. I had a couple kids that made music just for the fun. I remember going to one kid's house, and he had this music software called Magic's Music Maker, and he was just recording and making beats from it. And I was like, yo, I gotta get this. And so I think I told my dad or my mom about it, and then I got it on Christmas on my birthday. And when I tell you, like, I could not stop making beats on there. Like, I was making beats since I was 13. Like, I was making my own beats. And also, that's when I first got into writing my own music and writing my own raps and everything like that. I think I remember my first rap song I made. It was called Make Money, Take Money. And I remember I recorded it on a Logitech webcam, distorted as hell. Just, I didn't care. Like, I just love the fact that I can record myself with my own beats. And I remember, also kids in the neighborhood, I would freestyle with them. We would make like tapes and everything. So it was crazy. Like, we was just having fun freestyling and everything like that. So, it was a good time for me. I remember what I was talking about too. I was talking about guns. I was talking about sex. All those things that I didn't know nothing about at the time. So I think one of my parents heard my songs, and it was like, you could just, you don't have to talk about these things. You can just be yourself. And so that stuck with me as well. And so throughout my middle school and high school, I started making mixtapes. I started making mixtapes. Also, Dat Piff was hot at the time. And so I started putting all my mixtapes on datpiff.com, and I started forming a record label called TKO, and then it went from Next Generation Records, and then it went from Young Nation. So just letting y'all know, I was on my Puff Daddy shit. No Diddy. Nah, for real, I was on my Puff Daddy shit. Like, if anybody knows me, knows like that Puffy, like, as a entrepreneur, as a CEO, and just as bad boy. That was one of the people that I looked up to. So I really looked up to him in that aspect. And so pretty much, I moved in with my dad, and so the kids in my neighborhood started to find out that I make my own music. And so all my friends in my neighborhood, they would come to my house, and we would just start recording music just for the fun of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we was just having fun. And I was just having a good time making music. At the same time, I'm in the school bands now. So not only am I playing at church, but now I'm in concert band, I'm in marching band, I'm in jazz band, I'm in orchestra, I'm in symphonic band, like all the bands that you can think of. So that really helped shape my musical ear and really helped me grow as a musician. So at the same time, I'm trying to be a famous rapper and producer. So I'm being a musician. At the same time, I'm trying to be a famous rapper, singer, and producer and arranger while trying to start my own record label at 13 years old. So I'm doing all these things, right? So I didn't really start taking my musical journey seriously just as an artist and producer until I got into high school. I think it was my senior year in high school. I remember making a song with my friends. Shout out to Kent, shout out to Gavin, shout out to Grizz. We made a song called Prom Night. This is my senior year. We made a song called Prom Night. And it's crazy because we made this song on the day of prom, I downloaded to a disc. We went to prom. I asked the DJ, can you play the prom song for us? He said yes. So he played the prom song for us before they announced the winners of prom king and prom queen, and I was prom king after they started playing it. So, and I also made a graduation song. Shout out to Northland High School graduate class of 2011. You know, I don't need y'all to say that I'm old, and I don't need y'all to say that I'm a baby neither. So I don't need y'all to say it, because I already know some of y'all whispering that right now. 2011? Yeah, whatever. That's my class. Shout out to them. But yeah, and so once again, still making music, still playing at church, and then I got to college, and that's when my song Popular, I made the song Popular with samples the song Wicked, and it pretty much blew up on campus at Columbia College, Chicago. It was on the radio. Oh, you know what? I'm skipping something right now. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry. As I start doing this podcast more, I will be more organized in my thoughts, right? Because, again, I do a lot of things, and I want to make sure that y'all understand who I am and understand all the things that I do. So in high school, I started to get into acting, right? So around my sophomore year in high school, I started to be in a stage play called A Raisin in the Sun. I played Walter Lee Younger. I saw Diddy do it in A Raisin in the Sun back in '08. That's how I said I wanted to do that. And I saw Sidney Poitier, and that acting bag, it's a whole different ball game. Like, if you are an actor or actress out there, like, I have so much respect for y'all, because not only do you have to remember lines, but you also got to put the emotions behind it as well. And that was one of the most challenging things that I've dived into, just being an actor, and also that being my first role, playing Walter Lee Younger in A Raisin in the Sun. And the reason why I chose to tap into the acting bag was because I seen people like Will Smith, you know, one of my biggest inspirations of all time. He's a rapper and an actor. So I said, you know what? And I've seen a lot of musicians turn into actors and actresses. So I wanted to see what I can do with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what made me want to become an actor. So I've done a few plays throughout my high school career. And the latest acting gig that I did was back in 2018. I was in a stage play here in Columbus, Ohio called Jitney, and I played a guy named Youngblood. So it was good to tap into the acting bag as well. So again, I wanted to point that out there, because I know I completely forgot about that, you know, the chronological order. But again, I would do a better job at that as I do this podcast. So as we continue. So yeah, back into my college days, I continued to perform my music. I continued to record my own music, record different artists that was there at Columbia College, Chicago. It was an art school, so I ran into a lot of artistic people, from rappers, singers, producers. So we was all just, you know, getting it in, just as artists, you know what I'm saying? Like, we was just being artistic, you know, we was just having fun with it, you know? I also got into hosting different events. I also got into putting together events. I was the vice president of Columbia Urban Music Association, and we put together different events such as the 90s show and Columbia's Got Talent. So I really learned how to craft and put together, you know, successful sold-out shows and packed-out shows. So I dived into just the behind the scenes of it all, you know what I'm saying? So that was a really fun thing for me to do. So I actually left school. I didn't complete school. I left school in 2015. I put out a project called the Greg Owens Project, which was kind of like a culmination of music, of collection of music that I put together for those 4 years from 2011 to 2015. It's available on my Bandcamp, Greg Owens 614.bandcamp.com, or you can stream the EP version of it on all streaming platforms. So make sure you check out the Greg Owens Project. So 2015, I came back home, and once again, I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I really wanted to tap into, get myself known in the scene. Like, I wanted to know, like, who was out here. Like, how do I immerse myself into the scene as a musician and as an artist? So, again, I was still playing drums at church. You know, I had a mentor, Dr. Milton Ruffin. You know, he gave me a bunch of gigs, you know, but that was the only person I was playing with at the time or doing gigs with at the time. So it allowed me to focus on creating my own music as well and grow as an artist and grow as a producer. And so, again, I dropped out of college and I was on my spiritual journey. You know, I got into meditation. You know, I've been through a few situations I didn't understand. You know, I had to pretty much figure out who I was just as a man, just as an adult. You know what I'm saying? That was my first time actually just like making a full adult's decision not to complete school. And so from there, again, I tapped into my spirituality. I tapped into meditation. So I started exploring different sounds, like different spiritual sounds and African sounds. And you know, I had so many genres that was in me that I was influenced by. And so I had to figure out how to put that all into one big pot and stir it up and make a big gumbo out of it. And so at that time, around 2016, I started making my album Eclectic Soul. Now, Eclectic Soul, and I will talk about that Eclectic Soul and what that meant to myself and what that meant to the culture, because that album itself was pretty much ahead of its time. Like, but I just want you to know like where I was at the time creatively. So I was blending spiritual sounds with hip hop, with R&B, with gospel, with funk, you know. All of the genres that influenced me since I was a kid, I wanted to bring all of those into my music. And so I released Eclectic Soul in September of 2017, and I became one of the biggest artists in the city of Columbus in a short amount of time. You know, I got a couple of my songs played on the radio. Shout out to 107.5 and 106.7. I performed a lot around the city. I gained a lot of respect from the artists in the community. So, again, that album helped me to establish myself here in the music scene in Columbus, while at the same time, I'm trying to make my mark as a drummer, you know, because still, like, I'm still playing at church, but I'm not really playing all over the city. So, and for anybody out there that wants to be known in the city or wants to get their name out there, you have to make yourself known. You have to put yourself out there. You have to go to different places. You have to go to different events. People have to know who you are. You have to show your skills, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I went to different jam sessions. Shout out to Bobby Floyd for letting me sit in with him a few times. Again, I met different musicians, and so just networking. You know what I'm saying? So it took a few years. For me as a musician, as a drummer, to really like get my name out there, because I'm still known as a producer and still known as a recording artist and engineer, but I've yet to like tap into the world of musicians here in Columbus. You know, so this was like around 2017 through 2020. That's when I started to like really want to get myself known out there as a musician. And so finally, it was a Christmas show that I did with Gabrielle Solange, who was also a member of Fatty Cool. Shout out to Gabrielle Solange. Shout out to Walt from Mojo Flow. That's how I even got to Mojo Flow, because me and Walter K from Mojo Flow, we did a gig together with Gabrielle Solange, and then I guess he saw how I played, and he asked me to be a part of Mojo Flow. And Mojo Flow is one of the biggest bands in Columbus. If not, they've been considered the best band for years. So they already had a established notoriety, especially in the city of Columbus. So when they asked me to join to be a part of Mojo Flow, I was like, yo, this is crazy, because like, you know, from them to think that I'm good enough to be a part of this amazing group, like, this is just amazing. And they're all amazing people. So I've been with Mojo Flow, playing with Mojo Flow since March of 2021. Been with them ever since. And so that also this has also been a great experience too, just to let you know like what all encompasses of being being a band like Mojo Flow, what the ins and outs and the behind the scenes and the work that we put in. So from there, I started my own band. Well, again, I have to go back because again I have to tell this story as well. So for anybody that knows me knows that I had a band called Harmonic Soul. Harmonic Soul band is pretty much a jam band. It's pretty much an eclectic soul band. We play a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? A lot of genres. And so I originally started a band Harmonic Soul with a couple of church musicians in 2016. And I didn't do anything with it until years later, probably when the pandemic hit 2020. And then from there, started building that up. For the past 3 years from the ground up. And so we went from playing, just at different restaurants, different open mic events until last year that we were fully a band. We opened up for PJ Morton. We opened up for Boys to Men at the Columbus Commons, which we performed in front of 8,000 people. So I've had a lot of highs as far as, where my creative energy has gone from. So if you ever meet me in the scene, like, especially in the city of Columbus, like, I'm everywhere. Like, I'm not just in one scene. I'm in different scenes. Just depends on what I'm doing. So this is why I'll say, like, it's very important that you develop different skills because you never know where you're needed. Like, for example, if you're a multi-instrumentalist, let's just say you can play the drums, you can play the keys, you can play the bass, you can play the sax, whatever. Your value is increased because you might get called to play drums in one gig, and then the next gig you might get called to play the drums, and the next gig you might get called to play bass. And honestly, that's more money in your pocket. So that just shows the value that you have. So the more skills that you have, again, the more valuable you become, right? So that's why I say, like, just make sure that you have different skills so just in case you're needed in a certain areas, you can be useful, right? So back to what I was saying. So now, not only am I known as an artist, but I'm starting to pick up steam as a musician. Now I'm getting more calls like, "Hey man, can you do these gigs, or can you sub in here, and can you play for us, at this particular time?" And so I started booking more and more gigs just because people saw me in Mojo Flow and people saw me in Harmonic Soul. And at the same time, I'm still releasing music. I'm still releasing singles. I've pretty much been releasing singles every year since 2017. I haven't released a project yet because, again, my focus has been being a drummer, being a musician, paying the bills, and also at that time, 2021, I decided to become a full-time musician up until this year, for 2 years, and being a creator and also being your own boss and being an entrepreneur is not for the weak. And, I know people ask me all the time, like, how do you do this? Like, what is your mental like? Like, how do you balance everything? I don't, honestly. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you focus on one thing, other things has to be sacrificed, right? So if I'm more so focused on being a drummer, I believe that me recording music and me producing music had taken a back seat throughout these years because my focus has been more so being a drummer. As in, when I wasn't playing around as much, I was able to focus more on getting into the studio and writing and producing and composing. So it just depends on where I'm at the time and what is required of me at the time and where my energy, what energy requires of me at the time. So You don't really balance it. It just depends on where you at, and just depends on where you're needed. And so, it's hard. It could be hard. It could be tough to balance everything because you want to be good at everything. But again, like when you're so good at a lot of things, like certain things get put on the back burner. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want those other skills to regress, but it might regress. You know what I'm saying? If you don't put that time and energy to it. So just for anybody that do a lot of things that still wants to keep those skills that you already have, just make sure, you find time in between time to hone in on something. Either it's just learning, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it's just take like 20 minutes out the day to hone in on this particular skill, and then the next 30 minutes hone in on another particular skill. Like for me, I make sure I try to get my practice in on the drums as much as I can. And in those days where I don't have rehearsals, those days that I have off days or days where I'm not doing anything, those are the times where I can implement, okay, I can go to the studio and at least try to get my creative juices flowing. So the journey is this for me, is that I started off being a musician as the drummer, and then I worked my way up to being a recording artist and music producer, beat maker, songwriter, composer. And in between time, I developed an acting bag and also different skills along the way, which made me who I am today. So as I continue to do this podcast, I will dive into more detail of my creative journey and different stories that I have, and anything that you guys want to know, just what I've learned or what I've been through along the way. Again, I just wanted to talk about just my creative journey and like all the things that I do. And you may ask the question like, what do you want to do next? Like I'll just leave that up to the future. Like again, this is one of the skills that I want to develop is talking, is becoming a better speaker. And so as I start doing this podcast, I know I will become a better speaker, and I'll be more comfortable speaking and telling my truth and telling my stories and give you my perspective. I can't give y'all everything now, but again, as I start doing this podcast more, as I start speaking more, you will get more details about my journey and my perspective. So again, thank you all for, if you made it this far without pausing, without skipping, thank you all for tuning in. Again, like I know it's a bunch of content out here that you guys could listen to, the guys could watch, but for you guys to stick with me for this long, I thank y'all for going with me on this journey, and as I'm starting to get better at this. So once again, this is my creative journey. This is episode 3. This is the Greg Owens podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.
Can't nobody hold me down. I got the holy crown and the light. My destination never out of sight. And she up from round the way. See her from miles away. Pull up beside your bay and show it just how I play. Just though I'm proud to say that I am taking over. So here I am, bringing y'all to the promised land. It's the man with the plan. Better understand, cause I don't care who you think I might be. I know ain't nobody like me. Who you know do it better besides me. Like me. Hey. That's right. You sound good, don't you agree? Don't you agree? Fresher than the peppermint, baby, I am the prize. Freshy heavy scent, proud of my cologne, but the herb it got a heavy scent. She say she like my hair, come here, baby, you could play the dice when we be gambling. I be outside, no camping in, now we just camping here. When a real beat, call your phone, better answer it. You was asking him for a blessing, I'm what he blessed you with. She ain't about her paper, cut her off, cause she cancerous. Real beats gon' step to this, bad shorties gon' dance to this. I'm a player, baby, you can tell by my mannerisms. When I speak, they gotta listen. Change your life when I'm speaking this.
If you wanna move up, yeah, I see you with the moves. It ain't nothing like us.